I have always said that water is the local issue of global climate change for people and for biodiversity. So the NITI Aayog report, which came out earlier this year in June, it has said comprehensively that the Indian water crisis is the biggest challenge to India's development. In fact, it is the worst ever water crisis in India's history. We know about thousands of farmers committing suicide, and just yesterday there was a report that about 20,000 villages in Maharashtra face water crisis. So with so many big challenges coming up, the water crisis is really going to hamper our development activities, and as well as compromise on achieving the SDGs. So we really have to focus on water. So many people say actually that India is not a water deficient country. We have abundant rainfall, but we have the resources, but we are not utilizing them. For example, the potential of rainwater harvesting is immense, and we are hardly, harvesting not even 10% of the potential. So that is one way that we can actually address the water scarcity problem. And another issue is that about 40% of supplied water, they say, is lost due to leakage and dripping. So if we can increase awareness, if we can take this whole problem of leaking and dripping on a war footing and ensure that all these faulty pipes are replaced, and of course that can only be done with community participation, because in the villages sometimes we see just the open taps and the water is just flowing out all the time. Even in the railway tracks sometimes we see open taps and the water is just being wasted all the time. So with community participation, with adequate amount of sensitization, I think we can resolve the water issue, and we can probably harvest rainwater in abundant areas, and probably find a way to actually distribute it to scarce areas as well. In fact, water is life, water is health, and then without water, nothing happens. So, as you said, many places in India have the problem of contaminated water. In fact, in many rural areas, we see the same water bodies, suppose the same pond or lake is being shared by wild animals. People are taking bath there, washing their clothes there, and then they're only using it for drinking as well. At Work for Water, we have set up these community water centers, more than 8,700 of them in some of the most scarce districts in India, especially in Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, parts of Tamil Nadu. So what we do there is that we take whatever water available from a pond or a lake, and then take it through 4 or 5 phase filtration process, and then supply it to the communities at very cheap rates, like 20 paisa per liter. Why we charge them is, of course, if in India, if you give anything for free, it is misused. So we charge a minimum price and ensure that the machinery is being maintained and operated properly. And I think community water centers are key to India's water problems in the future. We will see a lot of them coming up. The second thing that we can do is set up water ATMs. Again, that can also solve the problem of plastic pollution. So I think in the future we'll see a lot of water ATMs coming up in the public places like railway stations, buses. But these are some of the interventions that need to be done by the government to actually have a water revolution across the country.
So educating people.
So number one, we believe that every drop counts. We have set up this water pledge. It's a nice cutout of a drop of water with a water pledge, and we actually went out to all stakeholders across campuses, educational institutions, and offices around the country. And last year, building up towards World Water Day, we administered this pledge in almost every district of India, and then it went abroad, and then it went to over countries. And we had it in the Eastern Himalayan Economic Forums too last year, where the pledge was administered. That is one way of sensitizing all stakeholders. On the village level, in these community water centers that I talked about earlier, we have a system of displaying information digitally, as well as on posters, where the village folks are also told about the health hazards and how water how ensuring the water quality will actually add to their life and improve their quality of lives. So we also ensure that it's part of the school curriculum, and make people understand that healthy, safe drinking water access is key to everything. Yeah, like I was saying, water is life. I mean, everywhere we see people, almost a billion people around the world are struggling to have safe water access. I have seen these images of people girls climbing down the walls of a well in India, just to get the water. Similarly, in Africa, we have seen some women who have suffered curvature of the spinal cord because they have to carry water every day. Water is vital. So, if we can ensure that adequate water is available, and a lot of this is also connected to food production. I mean, the amount of water that is used by animal agriculture it's totally atrocious. I mean, with people suffering water scarcity, and then we are wasting so much of water for animal agriculture. I think the future of food depends a lot on how we utilize our water, and of course rainwater harvesting is going to play a key part, especially in rainfall abundant countries. Well, according to the Composite Water Management Index that came out in June this year, uh, only a handful of states, which includes Gujarat, I think that's the only one I can remember at this moment. Uh, you know, Only a handful of states have scored well, considering all the parameters of water. Most of the northeastern states, most of the mainland Indian states are not doing very well. So that includes things like rainwater harvesting, ensuring decontamination of water. So there is so much of scope. I mean, overall, if you ask, in India as well as globally, we are not doing, what we can. I believe there is a lot of scope, and with the right amount of policy action, with the right amount of people participation, we can actually provide safe drinking water access to everybody. Well, like I was saying, water is the local issue of global climate change for people and for biodiversity. Uh, well, in some places it is water scarcity. In other places it is wrong, precipitation at the wrong time, which causes problems. And it's true, like people need water while animals need water, biodiversity needs water. If animals do not have adequate water access, there may be, they may be forced to stray out of protected areas, and that will lead to increased vulnerabilities to poaching as well as man-animal conflict. So water, I always say that the three W's, they're all interlinked: warming, water, and wildlife. And I like to work with all stakeholders on these three things, because if we talk to people about water, most of them have water issues. So it's easier to talk to them about climate change, and then how it is affecting water. Similarly, when I talk to students and the young people, they almost everybody has a favorite animal, and they like to talk about the biodiversity, and then we can always connect about how biodiversity, how we are in the middle of a mass extinction, and how climate change is causing all of this. So yes, all of these are related, and I'll like to help people connect these three.
Thank you very much, sir, for talking to us. So that was Mr. Rituraj Phukan, who is the CEO for Walk for Waters, speaking here at the Eastern Himalayan Naturonomics Forum 2018.